heart-centered approach which puts people first. We partnered with a consulting company from South Africa and to co-create a code that would drive ethical and sound people practices. Mauritius is among the very few countries in the world to come up with a code of people practices for its organizations. It's a privilege to be part of a talented team impacting at a national level, ensuring consistent people practices across Mauritius. The Code of People Practices offers a framework focused on empowering people practices and embraces the strategic importance of the human resources function.
Greetings everyone, my name is Heidi Hock, and just now you will meet my colleague Roxanne Derby. We are entrepreneurial consultants that have the privilege to work with Business Mauritius in drafting the Code of People Practices that we are launching today.
As Pendula, we specialize in training and consulting, with two of our focus areas being HR and labor law. We are really excited to be a part of this. During the past 18 months, we journeyed with Business Mauritius in facilitating several workshops and conducted surveys with Business Mauritius members. We engaged from employee level right up to CEOs, including business owners. This allowed us to gain a greater understanding of the member company needs. We thank each and every one of you who took part in this process.
Our vision from the start has been, and still is, for member companies and individuals to be able to have a user-friendly code that is accessible and that they are able to implement confidently. The aim is to ultimately achieve this through training, development, coaching and other support services. It became clear that we had to introduce a code that would be suited to all members. This led to us working very closely with the Social Capital Commission subcommittee members during the past few months. It has been so rewarding to work on this code and to see it evolve to this point, and we really look forward to the next chapter. For those of you that have met us through the engagements, you will know that our passion is for people.
Today's world is characterized by constant change and high uncertainty. Your talents, that is your people, are the most important resource who can think and act with resilience and agility. The Code of People Practices gives you the guidelines to create a human-centered organization. It sets out what are the key practices that you need to focus on in order to be an employer of choice. Because it's based on best practices, implementing the code, the Code of People Practices effectively will help your business to improve performance, drive engagement and motivation, as well as grow the skills and competencies of your people, therefore leading to better service and better results. Signing the pledge is more than just a symbol. It is an act of faith. It is a commitment towards your people that will focus on creating an environment where they can grow, perform, and thrive. It is a clear signal that as a business leader, when it comes to your people, you mean business.
Thank you all for coming and joining us here today. It's a delight to welcome you to the launching of the Code of People Practices. I'm sure you must all be wondering, what's this code about? How is it related to you? We will, through this event today, drive you through the journey we embarked on almost 18 months ago. However, some may tell you that it started well before because the discussions were on the table maybe a few years ago. Anyway, to situate the pertinence of this lead in today's disruptive economic and social environment, may I invite Mr. Kevin Ramdin-Clark, the CEO of Business Mauritius, for his address.
Again, the same reason. Why are we doing this code? Let me take it in a different angle. Let's look at the economic outlook and why this code is extremely important. We're talking by saying that we ended the year last year very much pessimistic about this year globally and locally. But we start the year with at least some signs of light at the end of the tunnel. Firstly, some of our key markets are projected to do a bit less badly than was thought at the end of last year. And then locally, we've got the vaccine that is now on the table. The first doses have arrived, and with the Mauritian population being vaccinated and herd immunity happening in Mauritius, and the same things happening elsewhere, we will hopefully at some point, whether in the mid or late in the year, go back to some form of normality. Now, what will it really be for Mauritius in terms of impact on GDP? The question is open, we have different views, but let's say it's all in the same direction. We are all saying that growth this year will be above 5%. That's more or less what we're saying. Now, some of the more enlightened one are saying 6.3, others are saying closer to 7, 8, and even 9, based on different things. But the basis, in fact, is on when do we reopen the economy. And the economy reopens once the vaccines here happen, and also how things turn out in our international markets. We know that the rollout plan to rework is going to take more time, in the UK also, but it is happening. So I think we need to focus on the direction today rather than on the quantum. But as we rebuild, the pandemic has been a catalyst. We all know this. We know that health professionals have told us that such a pandemic should have happened in the world, given the way the international economy is interconnected. But when it happened, it was a catalyst. Things that had to go wrong badly, quite badly very fast. But as we rebuild, we've seen a lot of positives. We've seen a lot internationally of cohesion getting together in Mauritius. It's been really fantastic. Our whole country has pulled together towards fighting the pandemic. But as we do that, and we're rebuilding, everyone agrees that we need to build a sustainable and inclusive economy. Locally, in the same language that Business Mauritius has been sharing for the last, since its inception actually, sustainability and inclusive growth is the core of our mandate. It is being also resonated from the IMF, from the World Bank and others. But for us really, practically, whilst we are rebuilding, there is as we're rebuilding, there is the need to look at our USP, at our unique selling proposition. And without being the details, without being into the defined details which are being worked out in different commissions, really there are two areas which are extremely important. One is we rebuild intelligently, where value addition is core in our offering, and that really on one side is about embracing technology, innovation, the new technologies, AI, e-commerce, etc. And on the other hand, it's looking at labor productivity and ensuring that we take the best care and the best path with regards to our human capital development. Now, this is not post-pandemic. Business Mauritius has been working on this through the commissions, and in fact, we have discussed human capital development as one of our pillars as we move forward in building business environment tomorrow for the business communities and national business roadmap. But once we did this, thankfully, we started working on this a while back, and as we did this, I think we are now ready to launch what is a very important element of the strategy. Just a few figures to put things in perspective. The labor force in Mauritius is just under 600,000 for a population of 1.2, 1.3. But in there, in this labor force, the employment in the large establishments, the private sector and the large establishment is around 326, also 327,000 packs. This represents almost 60% of employment in the country. In large establishments, I'm using the definition of the Statistics Mauritius. So large establishments there is establishments with more than 10 employees. But in there, the drivers or units, the Business Mauritius membership, and we have around 125,000 employees in our membership. And the idea of a code of people practice is based on this. If we're able to do a real difference with those 125,000 employees, if we're able to put in place systematic code that helps us look at the development of our human capital, we help in moving the agenda of Mauritius economic development. And in that, the professionalization of the HR function is key. And this is why, in fact, all of you here, thank you very much for being here. So the purpose is to be able to enable this business growth and sustainability through sound business practices and HR practices. And therefore, it is a real pleasure to share this code of people practices with our members, all of you that are here, and we look forward, after sharing the code of practice, to be able to work with you to implement it in your respective organizations. So without much ado, but before that, thanking the Commission, and we will be inviting the Chairperson of the Commission, Ms. Ramdin-Clark, to come and address us, explain the code to us. But thanking also the subcommittee, I see Manish and Varsha are right in front of me. Thank you so much. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible. Thanking the BM team, particularly Devaj. I mean, Devaj has been the driver internally for this process and has been the one really following up at all our management teams, giving us the progress of it. So thank you, all of you, and without much more ado, I invite my team.
Strategies have shifted to embrace increasingly human-centric approaches that elevate and empower the workforce by rethinking the relationship between the employer, the worker, and society. Employees today look to their employers and teams for a sense of belonging and advocacy, seeking meaning, connection, and individualized consideration sensitive to their personal needs and circumstances in order to be able to function effectively and achieve a common purpose, which actually is what social capital is about. Successfully implementing best people practices requires a comprehensive approach to the management of human resources, with a focus on ownership, workforce needs, and a process to engage employees in work design whilst taking into consideration new dynamics of the world of work. Kevin mentioned a few earlier, and I'll also mention a few, repeating technology, AI, but also expectations of different generations and generational gaps, adaptability, flexibility, remote working, diversity, and inclusiveness. And, of course, emergency circumstances such as those that we have witnessed since the COVID-19 pandemic broke last year. The new normal we're in today is nowhere close to anything normal we've known before the pandemic. And the COVID-19 pandemic upended our reality in unprecedented ways and has tested the abilities and the agility of business leaders like nothing and never before. Like many life-changing events, this is a time to think of new possibilities. We are beyond the doorstep of a new era. We are in the new era. And the turn of events has given us all a chance to reboot, to start afresh, to revisit, to rethink, and genuinely improve our working practices. Let's harness this opportunity brought about by trying circumstances to recalibrate our approach to human capital and to create disruptive innovations that will foster a culture of resilience and unleash the power of human capital provision. I apologize. Very much technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, times of uncertainty place stress on organizations to make bold moves overnight. And the Social Capital Commission of Business Mauritius is committed to supporting the business community as enterprises either reshape or complete their shift towards a human-centric workplace. Today's launch is a milestone for Business Mauritius. I'm proud to point out that this code is unique, not only because we've not really been able to find a similar code anywhere else in the world, but also because in addition to putting together best practices from across the world, we have also used actual inputs from Mauritius businesses, and all this is meant for the Mauritian business community. I would in turn like to
place on record sincere appreciation for the relentless efforts of the teams involved in the preparation of this code at the level of Business Mauritius, Tiraj. Thank you very much. And I'd like to also thank Manisha Fulesa, Sales Development Officer. And most especially, thank you to the professionalization of the HR Function Subcommittee, led by Varsha Naran, founder of Lumiere Coaching and Consulting, and composed of Manish Bandhan, Chief Human Resources Executive at the Mauritius Group. Thank you also to Cindy Ray, Head of Human Resources at Ceridian Mauritius Limited, and to Shaheen Payal, Corporate Manager, Human Resources at Rogers and Company Limited. All these subcommittee members contributed to the elaboration of the code on a voluntary basis, and we are truly grateful that professionals operating at such high levels readily provided their time and insight to bring this valuable project to fruition. To guests, I trust that the business community and employees at large will benefit from this code. This code is intended to provide practical guidance and to raise the level of people practices across the Business Mauritius membership and beyond. But please, let this code be a base that enterprises can build on. I strongly advise and appeal to you not to fall into the trap of simply ticking the box as you implement the practices. Let the shift in focus be a genuine, transformational process for it to derive long-term value. Else, really, we would be setting ourselves up for failure. I will end by reminding you that Business Mauritius is a membership organization and is at the service of its members, so we also rely on members' feedback to better meet your requirements. I therefore encourage you to share your views with us on this code, so we make of this code a dynamic tool, a strategic enabler for business sustainability and quality of life, and certainly a benchmark for success. Thank you.
Sustainable and inclusive Mauritius with shared prosperity for all. There are three commissions under Business Mauritius: the National Economic Development, Sustainability and Inclusive Growth, and Social Capital. In 2019, the Economic Commission produced the National Business Roadmap with participation from all our members, thinking about the vision for the country and also about all the improvement that we can bring to the business environment for sustained growth. 4 key priorities were identified: better use of our natural resources, development of our human capital, governance and environmental vulnerability. In 2020, the Sustainability and Inclusive Growth Commission launched the Inclusive Development Guidelines and the commitments of our members on sustainability through signature, recognizing that natural resources and environmental vulnerability concerns of our members. Now in 2021, the Social Capital Commission is launching the Code of People Practices, which is another milestone on the inclusive agenda, but more specifically on the development of our human capital. Human capital is increasingly a major source of competitive advantage. The people function is more strategic and central to delivering business value. It gives me immense pleasure as President of Business Mauritius to launch this code, which I believe will benefit all our members in their journey to professionalizing human resources functions in their organization and in ultimately developing the human capital landscape of the country. I want to place on record my appreciation to the Commission President, Ramdin-Clark, and the subcommittee members, Manish Bandhan, Varsha Naran, Cindy Ray, and others as well, for all your contribution to making this code a reality. Thank you also to the Business Mauritius team, Kevin Ronquelon, the CEO, Dheeraj Ramnagan, and the Social Capital Department team of Business Mauritius for following this through. Finally, a word of thanks to the Pendula Group for having done a tremendous job to bring best practices with a Mauritian flavor in an accessible format to our members. So I invite all members to take advantage of the Code of People Practices, which is hopefully going to be a living document that will keep improving. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.